Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Good morning, Nasser.
Morning, Yusuf. How you doing?
Happy 2019 to you and all our listeners.
It's going to be a new dawn, a new era.
And this is our 15th year. This year will mark our 15th anniversary. Wow. So I don't know how, but it's number 15 now.
Well, it almost feels like 2012. It's, you know.
طيب, Nasser, I hope you and the listeners have had a great holiday and relaxing one. But this is another reminder that Bethlehem, the place birth of Jesus Christ, has seen another Christmas under occupation.
Another Christmas under occupation, another Christmas surrounded by walls.
Yep, and cutting families, separating them from their other relatives and friends and from worshipping areas. And I know Christian friends of mine from other parts of Bethlehem who could not make it.
Of course.
To Bethlehem.
Remember that this wall now would have prevented, Mary and Joseph from ever getting to Bethlehem from Nazareth, and the baby Jesus would never have been born there.
And we will continue to repeat our hope that next Christmas, hopefully Christians of Palestine, the Muslims of Palestine, Palestinians around the world will be free. But until then, we have to continue highlighting the suffering, the human rights violations against Palestinians. And I guess we will start with Gaza, Nasser.
So we'll go straight to Gaza, and we're going to come back and talk about the Labour Party. But interestingly, a report was released in Gaza on the mental health service, by the mental health services, on the situations of what they call the concept, the Western construct of post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the realities of Palestinians in Gaza, but also Palestinians in all of historic Palestine and those that are in refugee camps all around the world, and diaspora Palestinians like you and I. We have an ongoing post-Nakba stress disorder, but this is not a clinical...
Not to mention that the Nakba is still ongoing.
Absolutely. Well, it's ongoing, post-Nakba and continuing Nakba. I don't know, we need the 7-letter acronym for that. We need to find a way to get it a bit shorter. But the reality of the mental health situation of those in Gaza, and this Western construct of post-traumatic stress disorder, it's framed around an American soldier going to Iraq and, killing some brown people and going home and feeling a bit bad and feeling sad. He heard a car backfire and he thinks he's back in the war zone. Well, the reality, he's in relative safety now back in the West, having committed the crimes his government sanctioned him to do in the Arab world or anywhere in the brown world.
Else.
For somebody in Gaza, the concept of post-traumatic stress disorder, whether it was, Operation Protective Edge or any of the other massacres perpetuated by the Israelis in Gaza, and including the ongoing murderous activities every Friday in the Great Return March. For Gazans, there is no post-traumatic. It's ongoing trauma. And the reality is there's no clinical definitions. I mean, if you're a Palestinian in Gaza and your house was bombed or your brother was shot, there's no, I can go to the mall now because I'm in Idaho or I'm in Melbourne or I'm in London. The the stress continues because the reality
The
is
fear of this happening again
it's very
is
real.
still valid. Yeah?
It's very real. Ongoing air, sea, land blockade. Nobody's coming in, nobody's going
And
out.
Israeli officials keep reminding us that it's a matter of time. One
To
of them, they will
reoccupy.
say that we will reoccupy Gaza. The other will say maybe we will bulldoze it to the ground again. And then we've heard an Israeli minister in 2014 calling for another Hiroshima in Gaza.
Yeah.
So
A Shoah, not a Hiroshima, a Shoah,
Yeah.
which is the Hebrew word for Holocaust. Another Shoah.
And yet they got away with it.
They get away with it. And you talk about the statistics. A quarter of Palestinian adolescents, this is 12
Youth.
to 19, have attempted suicide in Gaza. A quarter. We have the highest mental illness rates in the world there. Over a quarter have post-traumatic stress as well. I mean, the world's, in the first instance, Israel's culpability in the mental health of Palestinians within Gaza, but also the rest of historic Palestine is absolute.
Let's remind the listeners that when we talk about Gaza, we talk about a population that is predominantly refugees. So the continued denial of return of these refugees to where they are from in proper Palestine is the root cause of the problem.
Absolutely, it's the root cause of the problem. And the point I was making before, Yusuf, is the world's culpability. It isn't just Israel. I mean, they get the free card because nobody, the UN, the US, nobody is holding them to account for the crimes that are being perpetrated.
Complicity.
That's absolute complicity. So interestingly, and I mean disturbingly, let me read you this quote. And this was a Palestinian man who was suffering of breathlessness. Went to the doctor. The doctor said, look, I can't see anything clinically wrong with you. Maybe you should speak to a psychiatrist. After a few sessions, a trust evolved. And this is the psychiatrist comments. A few months later, after he developed enough trust, he told me that he had developed these symptoms, breathlessness, after he was attacked by soldiers who forced him to use filthy words against his wife and his mother. He was so ashamed of the event and the fact that he had to comply with the instructions that this created this situation. I mean, it's disgusting.
They know the impact of these things against anyone, but the added impact on Arabs particularly, given the value of what we call al-ird, which doesn't even have a word in English. And the al-ird is your relation to the female members of the family. That would be the mother, the sister, the wife, the daughter, and the female cousins, etc. So they know how damaging this can be, and nevertheless,
they continue to do it. And when you consider that, let's take Gaza out, and 100% of that population is imprisoned. But Palestinians in general, within 40% of males have spent time in Israeli jails. There's no way that, suddenly Palestinians are 40%, are that much more criminal than the rest of the world, that 4 in 10 males have to go to jail.
And imprisonment in Palestine is on political reasons, not on criminal reasons.
Throwing a stone at a tank.
Stone, or even refusing to demolish your own house or things like that.
So when you factor in those numbers, the abject poverty, the denial of opportunity,
The continued siege.
Let's take ourselves out of Gaza. Let's go to the West Bank. Let's go to East Jerusalem. Let's go to 48 proper inside Israel. The denial of opportunities, all of those things, they're compounding poverty. The reality, the median income of the Palestinian Israeli compared to the Jewish Israeli is a great disparity.
Disproportionate.
Absolutely. And then you move all your way down, whether it's, a blue ID holder, a Palestinian of Jerusalem, through to a West Bank resident, to a West Bank refugee, then to, a Gazan, then to a Gazan refugee. Those levels and the statuses. The reality on a mental health of an entire society, which has created the situation, Yusuf, in the past year in Gaza, seen an exodus of Palestinians.
Yes, Nasser, the figures in 2012, only 1 year, more than 20,000 Palestinian youth leaving Gaza and not returning, basically because it's impossible to have a future in Gaza. And not to mention the up to 24,000 injured Palestinian youth, basically, not just youth, women, children, young men,
paramedics, journalists.
journalists.
And we should make mention...
24,000. We're talking about before we were talking about Gaza is bleeding its human resources, whether by injury, by death, by mental damage, by immigration.
When we talk about injuries in Gaza, we're not talking about a scratch that a Band-Aid. What we're talking about is Israeli snipers using exploding bullets to shoot people's legs off.
And to target them on the knees and
Absolutely.
to cause amputation.
Permanent, life-changing injuries. These are not things that people are going to get healed from very quickly. Aside from the intentional targeting of our health workers, our ambulance drivers, journalists, etc.
Nasser, on a hopeful note within this tragedy, I want to give credit to Arwa Atwan and her family in the United States. Arwa is a member of an American Palestinian refugee support group, and what they do is that they raise fund to either bring injured people for treatment in the United States or maybe send money for treatment in occupied Palestine. Arwa is hosting in her place Muhammad Al-Ajrami, a 16-year-old Palestinian former athlete who lost his leg because of an Israeli sniper. Currently is in the United States for treatment and for putting a leg brace. So the solidarity among the Palestinian societies are still giving us more hope that they can while they continue to apply more injustice on us, we will continue to be in solidarity with each other.
Absolutely. What was the terms they thought? The old will die and the young will forget. They didn't realize that we were seeds.
No,
that will continue to grow.
So we will go back to news from Gaza in future episodes, definitely.
Absolutely. But we should have an update from Adelaide. Yeah. So as our listeners will know, we spoke about the upcoming, now past, triennial Labour Party National Conference, which is held every 3 years, and from that.
And we sent our correspondent to Adelaide. That was you.
that was yourself. I was there, of course. I was there with a magnificent team from the Australia-Palestine Advocacy Network, APAN, where you can go to apan.org.au and find out more. And APAN has been lobbying the Labour Party and, of course, the Liberal Party and the Greens for some time. But in particular, we had been asking or calling upon the Labour Party to change their position on Palestine, their policy on Palestine, to call for the immediate recognition of the State of Palestine, like the UK Labour Party, where Jeremy Corbyn has said the next Labour government will immediately recognise the State of Palestine. And the policy before December 18 was that the next Labour government would look and consult with like-minded nations to maybe, it was very wishy-washy.
And the one before was even worse than that. It was very broad, just we support the two-state solution and nothing.
Two people living side by side in peace and security. So thanks to the sterling efforts, the superb efforts of Ms. Wendy Turner, who's a board member of the Australia-Palestine Advocacy Network and a vice president of the Labour Party in Queensland, a motion was, all this stuff's done in the back rooms, so you don't actually know how it happens. But one, obviously, our side is saying immediate recognition as soon as Bill Shorten's going in. That's what's got to happen. On the other side is we can't recognise it, doesn't have a government, etc., 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 and they end up with whatever they end up with. Now, the reality is the policy that we ended up with 3 years ago was a measure of how strong the right was, and I say the right wing section of the Labour Party compared to the left, although they are in the right. But the tide and the feeling on Palestine has moved to the point where the right was the one that was seeking to make, we know we're going to have to do something. But
can we call them the wrong from now on?
Yeah, the wrong. We knew that they were backs against the wall, and what they need, what can we do to protect Israel as best we can? And what ended up being passed was, number one, notes, that this is the motion from the conference, was notes previous resolutions on Israel-Palestine carried in 2015 National Conference and the 2016 New South Wales Labour Annual Conference. 2, supports the recognition and right of Israel and Palestine to exist as two states within secure and recognised borders. 3, calls on the next Labour government to recognise Palestine as a state.
Fantastic.
4 expects that this issue will be an important priority for the next Labor government.
That is amazing.
Now, it's not what we had hoped for, which was to require Penny Wong, as soon as she was in government, to immediately recognise State of Palestine. But what it does do is make it very clear that, look, it'll happen in the next 1,000 days, yeah? Or assuming that we're 90 days from an election or 100 days from an election, in the next 3 years after that. And we can know how far we've moved based on the reaction of the wrong.
Yes,
and we'll call them the wrong,
Yes, from now on, the wrong means right wing.
Well, it means the right wing, it means Zionists, it means,
the anti-Palestinian
Australia's
voices.
Jewish Affairs Council, it means all of
anyone on the wrong side of history and ethics and moralities.
The wrong. They went apoplectic. So,
which is a testament to how, I'm not going to say how much needed this step is, but from a purely non-political moral obligation, because it was a Labour government that recognized Israel in 47.
So.
It was Labour, I think.
Yeah, it was Labour, Doc Everett, and he's a much lauded figure within the Labour Party.
Yep.
And 71 years later, it's time to recognise Palestine. Do you recognise it? Yeah. And this will be a huge shock when it happens. On top of ScoMo's misstep, and then when he was retreating, saying that he
was trying to fix the wrong thing by doing something even worse.
Well, if you read his statement, there was more for us than for the wrong, in that he said, when there is 2 states for 2 people, the Palestinian embassy will be in East Jerusalem. Which is a real issue for the Israel Firsters, the wrong, because Jerusalem's undivided. There is no East.
This is why Netanyahu did not send him a tweet of another tweet. Yeah. Unlike the first one,
yeah.
So he remained silent because he didn't see that happening.
But this recognition and the moving forward, and it's a worldwide move, as we know, Yusuf, leads us into the G77 and the United Nations.
Also, before I move to this topic, Nasser, I want to ask you, because you were in Adelaide and you saw amazing people who spent years or maybe decades of their life lobbying and working and supporting Palestinians. I want you to share things you've seen, people. You feel free to mention anyone, especially. I don't want to, but I would like also to give credit to the man who did
John
the walk.
Salisbury, yeah.
John.
So remiss of me not to mention it earlier, but as we know, John Salisbury walked from Melbourne to Adelaide with a sign on his back calling for recognition of State of Palestine. His car had recognised Palestine stickers on it. His wife followed him on the convoy 737 kilometres. Took him a month.
During very hot weather.
And a delegation met him on the last day. I was part of that delegation, and we walked with him about 35 kilometres on the last day, all the way through to the conference centre in Adelaide, and presented. John was met by a reception of Labor delegates, and he presented a letter to them, and it was a phenomenal effort on him to give up a month of his life, a month away from his family with his wife, to walk for Palestine.
Yeah.
Along the way,
raise awareness
of the
and demand the Labour Party.
To raise awareness, but also to speak to the legitimacy of the Palestinians' call for recognition of the State of Palestine. But he was met, and the reception would have been well over 100 people. The energy and enthusiasm with which he was received by the Labour Party delegates was so heartwarming.
Yeah, I saw the video, and even not being there, I was very touched.
Mm-hmm. And so from there, that energy and enthusiasm got carried through the Australia-Palestine Advocacy Network. APAN ran a fringe program, so that was so there is the conference, but then there's breakout sessions. So you can go along to the climate change conference, to the LGBT, little bits and pieces there, 1 hour road shows, if you will, where lobby groups or interest groups present on their cause and say this is why your policy should be X. And we ran a policy on a fringe program on why the Labor Party should immediately recognise the State of Palestine. And we had Labor Party members who'd attended an APAN study tour. We took a delegation of Labour Party people during the year 2018 to Palestine to see, what's going on. And each of those members of Parliament spoke about their experiences for just 2 minutes each. Bishop Browning opened the event. Dr. Sam Shaheen, an excellent member Palestinian in South Australia, also spoke. And then Peter Burke closed. And I can tell you he's a very articulate and learned man. And his presentation at the Fringe program, and then following that, he seconded the motion after Penny Wong read it. With a speech, was amongst the most awesome prose spoken for Palestine by a non-Palestinian at a mainstream and very, very significant event.
Absolutely.
So, we've got a very good ally in Peter Burke, and we, emotional. There was tears. The roar in the hall when the motion was read. It really, actually, to tell you the best bit of everything was the member for Ports, Michael Danby, was about 35 metres away from me, and you could see he was seething with anger. So the wrong is out.
Yep, that's the way.
And,
that's the way.
Onwards and upwards for Palestine.
We were very lucky to have spoken with John on the phone as he was doing the walk, and we will be delighted to invite him to the studio and to talk to him in person in maybe enough in the future few episodes, Nasser.
Absolutely.
So this drives us to
G77.
the G77, which is a coalition of maybe 70% of the world's economy and population. Because they said the G70 and China. So, and Palestine is chairing this bloc, which is a huge diplomatic victory for the Palestinian people. Not only that we are worthy of membership, we are capable of leading United Nations blocs to the mutual interests of all members of this bloc and all humanity. So, and this will probably pave the way for another important and much needed step, which is to call for full membership.
Full membership, that's right.
Because at the moment, we are not full members, we are observant members. Observers.
Yep.
Observers, and that was because of a vote in 2012 at the General Assembly. A great day for Palestine, I remember. But we also want to upgrade our membership to
full state.
Full state.
Yep.
Full state. Even under occupation, one day the occupation will end, and
our rights to full membership statehood is greater than Israel's, which was preconditioned on full application of 194, which 71 years later hasn't been complied to. So they should be thrown out. They shouldn't even be allowed to be observers.
Absolutely, because they are still denying the majority of Palestinian population, who are refugees like me and you, Nasser, return.
Yep, our inalienable right, which is a birthright. Nobody can give away your birthright, nor mine, Yusuf.
Speaking of refugees, Nasser, I have another update on the situation of the Palestinians of Iraq. We have spoken numerous times about this small community, which is now very tiny. The Palestinian community of Iraq is the smallest community of Palestinians in the Arab world. The statistics were in 2004, 27,000 only, and this 27,000 was brought to 7,000 in 5 years due to the sectarian violence that saw in the Palestinian, basically targeted everybody. Iraq witnessed very black chapter of sectarian violence. Did not exclude anyone. We saw that happening against Sunnis and Shias and Christians. That's even before ISIS. And but they were caught in this sectarian war, and 600 of them were killed, were tortured to death. 2,000 of them were injured, and the majority fled Iraq, not knowing where to go. Now, we have spoken about that, and you and I, Nasser, are members Aspire project. But the new thing is that the current government of Iraq is revoking laws of civil status that is negatively affecting the remaining few thousand of the Palestinians, especially in access to superannuation. Now imagine the superannuation that you worked all your life, and maybe the superannuation of some widows who are receiving their late husband's monthly little payment, but still, much needed, given that there are no other means of livelihood. The current Iraqi government is targeting the superannuation of Palestinians. They did not publicly declare that. There is no such thing called a statement or a policy change, but we have seen tens of cases where they go and they inquire about their monthly or superannuation, and they got declined with different non-reasonable excuses. One of them was, sorry, we can't locate your file. Or very, very unjustified explanations. And this is probably, I'm not going to say the last chapter, this is the most recent chapter of injustices against the stateless Palestinians, because 71 years, Nasser, of Palestinian Nakba. Every year there are more challenges that Palestinians have to see. It's not just the denial of return. It's not just the political element. It is the daily, the social, the economic, the political, and everything. It affects everything. And maybe in future episodes, because we're heading towards the end of this episode. In future episode, I will talk about the social challenges that are facing the Palestinian communities of the Gulf. There are things that are happening now in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Emirates, always going to the wrong direction, affecting the Palestinians. So in Iraq, the current government is revoking laws that was treating Palestinians like Iraqis and basically denying them from their own superannuation.
You know that this is how disgusting this is, and the betrayal of a brother to a brother. If you speak to any people, Iraqis or Saudi Arabians or Emiratis, ordinary Arabs, they'll tell you that the Palestinians built the Gulf.
Yeah,
they built Iraq. Saudi Arabia, they were the engineers, the physicians, the teachers, the lecturers, because we're the most educated people on earth. You know, it's drummed into us, Yusuf, as you know. They can take your land, they can take your house, they can take your money, but they can't take what's in your head.
No.
Education, education, education. But it's this ruling aristocracy, the megalomaniacs, whether it's MBS through to the Emirates, through to Iraq now with the Iranians, the foot with which they kick the Palestinians with just gets heavier and heavier, and there's nobody to protect us.
No. Like Edward Said said it, the Palestinian refugees in some Arab countries are constant reminders of their failure. And that's why there is you're not going to start from scratch. And when I say their failure, I don't mean the people. No, I don't mean the societies. Like you said, our brothers will always be our brothers. But some of the government will have a tendency of anti-Palestinian treatment or double standards.
Of course.
And we've seen that if you target Palestinians, you can get away with it easily, or what we say in Arabic, al-hayt al-mayli. I don't know how we can translate that in English. The easy target.
The easy target. Soft touch.
I guess this is all we have time for, Nasser. This is the first episode in 2019, and we're looking forward to 51 more episodes, hopefully, this year, with more news, stories, and views and reflections on Palestine, about Palestine, with Palestinians, or with pro-Palestine non-Palestinians. So thank you, Nasser.
Thanks, Yusuf. We look forward to Robert joining us very soon. He's still on holidays.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. And we will remind our listeners that we will be back 9:30 next Saturday. Until then, have a great time and salam.